What is really important, I would like to recognize Prime Minister Hailemariam Desalegn, Prime Minister of the Federal Republic, Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, our gracious host, and really thank him for finding the time to be with us, given his multiple occupations, but he has been very loyal to this meeting. And through him, I would like to recognize the presence of 10 former presidents that have been having their own forum parallel to our meetings, led by President Chissano. And I'm very pleased that they also found the time to come here and attend this opening ceremony. So I would like to ask for a round of applause for their presence. I would like to recognize the Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, Nike Yambo, here representing His Excellency President Geingob. I would like to recognize also the presence of the Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Augustin Matata Ponyo Mapon, who has already started yesterday giving us some of interesting light on the experience of Congo. To my sister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, co-host and president of the African Union Commission, I really would like to just say what a pleasure has been having these meetings with you throughout the years. Mesdames et messieurs les ministres, chefs de délégation et invités, mesdames et messieurs, il y a un an environ, nous célébrions encore les bons résultats économiques de l'Afrique. Nous n'étions pas les seuls à le faire. Les experts, les investisseurs et les médias avisés reconnaissaient que les perspectives étaient favorables pour l'Afrique, même si les sceptiques n'étaient pas loin. Beaucoup se laissaient cependant aller aux amalgames habituels. Un continent aussi vaste que l'Afrique était supposé subir des pertes dépassant les 30 milliards de dollars en raison d'Ebola, alors qu'en réalité, seuls 3 pays, n'ayant qu'une petite part du PIB total du continent, ont été touchés. Mais dans l'ensemble, les nouvelles ont plutôt été encourageantes. Après tout, 2015 a été une année exceptionnelle pour le continent, en ce qu'il a imposé une nouvelle façon de traiter les questions internationales. L'Afrique a fait œuvre de pionnier dans les discussions concernant les nouveaux objectifs mondiaux, les flux financiers illicites, la mobilisation des ressources intérieures, la révision des données et l'évaluation des changements démographiques, ou même le retour aux politiques d'industrialisation. Que les choses peuvent changer en un an, même si la menace d'Ebola s'est dissipée, des phénomènes funestes, semblables aux plus préoccupants, sont bien présents et se propagent tel un virus. Je pense qu'il est important de comprendre les enjeux de l'heure. Mesdames et messieurs, permettez-moi de m'attaquer au premier grand sujet, à savoir la chute des cours des produits de base qui a des effets négatifs considérables sur les pays africains. En 2015, les pays en développement du monde entier ont enregistré leur taux de croissance le plus faible depuis 2009, à savoir 4,3%. Ce fléchissement de la croissance s'explique notamment par le ralentissement de l'activité en Chine, la récession frappante des grandes économies émergentes comme le Brésil et la Russie, ainsi que la faiblesse des cours des produits de base. Celle-ci en particulier engendre une diminution des recettes d'exportation, des déséquilibres budgétaires et des déficits des comptes courants dans plusieurs pays africains. En 2015, l'Afrique a enregistré le plus gros déficit de sa balance de paiement courante de ces 10 dernières années. En 2015, toujours, 42 des 46 produits de base suivis par la Banque mondiale s'échangeaient à leur prix le plus bas depuis le début des années 80. Étant tributaires des importations ainsi que de leurs exportations de produits de base et des ressources naturelles dont les acheteurs sont du reste peu nombreux, les pays africains sont très vulnérables à la volatilité des prix et aux chocs commerciaux. Les répercussions de ces chocs sont souvent aggravées par le caractère sous-développé des systèmes financiers antérieurs et la mauvaise qualité des institutions en Afrique. Cependant, la volatilité actuelle des cours de la plupart des produits de base, hors pétrole, ne sort pas de l'ordinaire lorsqu'on la compare aux tendances historiques. La majorité des pays africains sont des importateurs nets de produits de base et devraient par conséquent tirer profit de la baisse des cours. Il est difficile de prédire pour une longue durée l'effet qu'aura la baisse actuelle des cours de produits de base sur la trajectoire de développement de l'Afrique. La situation est assurément très difficile, mais elle donne des solides motifs de réorienter vers des activités plus durables les ressources économiques affectées à la production de produits de base. De plus, il est difficile de dire si l'augmentation du pouvoir d'achat des consommateurs résultant de la baisse des cours de produits de base pourra apporter une hausse de la croissance supérieure aux pertes essuyées dans les exportations de ces produits. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2016, with a barrel price of $30.8 in average, Africa is going to earn 47 billion less in trade surplus relative to what we got in 2015. This difference is around 8% of the total value of Africa's exports if we compare with 2014. While considerable, this is unlikely to change the development trajectory for the entire continent. The fall in oil prices is more likely to have large adverse impacts on the few African countries whose economy depends on oil exports. However, governments can seize the opportunity offered by lower oil prices to scrap wasteful oil subsidies. IMF research shows that more than 40% of fuel price subsidies in developing countries accrue to the richest 20% of the households, while only 7% of the benefits go to the poorest, 20%. The volatility of most commodities, excluding oil, has been high, but contrary to general belief, not far above historical trends. Uranium, gold, coffee, cocoa, or orange juice exported from Africa are actually right now experiencing record prices. The case for headline 1, commodity prices volatility, depends on whether we want to look into the full picture or fall into the easy perception of negativism about Africa. I could pick many other headlines. For instance, debt in Africa is soaring, entering the danger zone. Actually, Africa's total foreign debt has been higher than 30% of GDP since 2010, and it was projected to have risen to 37% by the end of last year. However, net foreign debt as a share of GDP, net foreign debt, is only 1%, having been negative since 2006 because of Africa's international reserves. This debt level is also comparable to other developing countries and is well below that of advanced economies, of course. For example, the total debt for OECD countries was nearly 80% of their GDP in 2008, and was expected to grow to 111% in 2015. What is important here is to look into the increase. The champion of that is Japan, with a debt-GDP ratio of 230%, only 200 more than Africa. Sovereign debt is driven by advanced and powerful economies, asynchronous monetary policies. There is no coherent mechanism to govern any future sovereign debt crisis. Creditor-specific mechanisms used to facilitate past debt restructuring, like we benefited in Africa, are no longer available. Although a sovereign debt restructuring mechanism was proposed by the IMF more than a decade ago, there is still no international agreement on the topic to date. There is a general consensus that the existing rules are too creditor-friendly and may not be able to respond to the way forward. But the biggest undercurrent of the debt debate should be the pervasive effects of the so-called quantitative easing that have created easy credit for debilitated economies of developed countries that have contracted 54% since the beginning of the financial crisis in 2008-2009. Obviously, something has to give, and in this case, it is the increase in the cost of borrowing for the poor ones like us. In fact, there is a need for flexibility in placing debt ceilings and assessing debt. African countries should not be over-constrained and unduly deprived. The issue of debt sustainability will essentially depend on a comprehensive treatment of all components of debt in a debt restructuring and the provision of clear mechanisms to engage all stakeholders to build up consensus on how to close the gaps in financial architecture. This is going to be difficult for rich countries to accept. Neither monetary policy nor the financial sector is doing what it's supposed to do. It appears that the flood of liquidity has disproportionately gone towards creating financial wealth and inflating asset bubbles rather than strengthening the real economy. Despite sharp declines in equity prices worldwide, market capitalization as a share of world GDP remains high. The risk of another financial crisis is around the corner and cannot be ignored. This will not be the making of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a huge number of publications being launched during this week. We assess trade relationships with innovation, the investment treaties reality, a blue economy comprehensive handbook, a macroeconomic alternative framework for Africa, the progress made in West Africa integration, the regional integration index, a governance report centered on corruption, an African demographic profile, and the landmark new country profiles that will be over time covering each African country. The migration issue, not to mention the two twin reports on transformative industrialization and greening industrialization in Africa. It is a genuine effort to shift our mindset to transformative policies. We contribute to knowledge generation that is African-centered and do not apologize for it. Time has come to accelerate the speed of structural transformation because of the headwinds, not despite them. That requires knowledge. Is the current Africa growth to our liking? Of course not. African current growth has not generated sufficient jobs and has not been inclusive enough to significantly curb poverty. It has been driven for a third by commodities, which price boom is what I just listed, and government-related spending. Fluctuations in commodity prices has made such growth vulnerable. This reminds us of the imperative to structurally transform that in our case focuses on the potential offered by industrialization, be it through the expansion of commodity value chains, be it through the positioning for agribusiness to act as the pull factor for agricultural to get out of the doldrums, be it through the capacity to attract low-value manufacturing production facing rising labor costs in Asia. This is not out of reach. Structural transformation has been experienced for real by many countries in different regions of the world, but will not happen spontaneously. Rather, it will happen as a result of deliberate and coherent policies that are entrenched into a coherent development strategy enlightened by transformational leadership. I thank you.